You're on a call and your voice goes gravelly. You move your hand and it clears because your hand was on the antenna. It's not buried inside your phone. It's the metal band around the outside. Every phone is certified with a fake hand clamped onto it because the engineers already know yours is part of the circuit. Your hand doesn't just get in the way. It changes what the antenna is. And that band of metal is not a tank. Nothing is stored in it. When your phone transmits, it pushes electrons up the metal, then pulls them back, then pushes again, billions of times a second. Charge that keeps changing direction can't keep its field to itself. Some of that field lets go and leaves on its own at the speed of light. That is the transmission. There is no signal sitting inside your phone waiting for a door. There is a strip of metal being shaken and a field that can't hold on. Which raises a question with a very exact answer. How long does that strip have to be? Not any length. The wave decides. A radio wave has a physical length, how far it travels during one full back and forth of the current, and you get it by dividing the speed of light by the frequency. Metal radiates best when it's cut to a simple fraction of that length, usually a quarter of it. So run the numbers. An AM station at 1000 kilohertz makes a wave 300 meters long, and a quarter of that is 75 meters, which is why an AM antenna is a mast you can see from the highway. Wi-Fi at 2.4 gigahertz makes a wave 12.5 centimeters long. A quarter of that is just over 3 centimeters. Same rule, same physics. The metal is 1,000 times smaller because the wave is. Wi-Fi is the easy one. Your phone's lowest cellular bands sit near 700 megahertz, the ones that reach furthest and get through buildings. Divide it out. A wave 43 centimeters long, so a quarter wave of nearly 11 centimeters. That is the length of the entire phone. And there is no clever way around it. Shrink an antenna below what the wave wants, and the energy stops leaving. It piles up around the metal instead, and you pay for every millimeter you saved in bandwidth and efficiency. Wheeler and Chu worked out that limit in the 1940s. It's a floor, not a design problem. So the phone stops trying to hide the thing. It uses the largest piece of metal it owns, its own frame, which is also unavoidably the part you hold. Your hand closes around exactly that. Electrically, you are a bag of salt water, and salt water in a radio field does not ignore it, it absorbs. The field drags charge around inside your hand. That dragging turns into a very small amount of heat, and the energy that becomes heat in your palm is energy that never reached the tower. Measured on real handsets, a hand by itself costs anywhere from nothing at all to nearly 7 decibels. Put a head against the phone as well, and it runs to 9.5. And 7 decibels is not 7%. Decibels are logarithms. 6 decibels means 3/4 of your transmitted power is already gone. Walls and distance take their own cut further along. That's a different video. This is the obvious half. The stranger half is that your hand doesn't only take energy out of the antenna, it changes what the antenna is tuned to. The metal works because its length matches the wave, but that length is electrical, not physical. and bringing something as electrically dense as flesh up against it stretches the electrical length. The strip of metal has not moved. It is now tuned to a slightly different frequency from the one your phone is transmitting on. So the power doesn't leave, it comes back. It runs up to the antenna, meets a mismatch, and reflects straight back down the wire into the transmitter. 0.5 decibel to 2 decibels of pure reflection in an ordinary grip. And this is why the oddest finding in the research is also true. When engineers ranked what actually matters about the way you hold a phone, the biggest factor was not the size of your hand, it was where your index finger was sitting. In 2010, the iPhone 4 shipped with its antennas built into the steel band around its rim, separated by thin insulating gaps. Bridge one of those gaps with bare skin, a palm, one finger, anything that conducts, and you are no longer just loading an antenna. You are wiring two of them together, and the pair detunes hard. Measurements put the loss at 24.6 decibels in a tight grip. That is not a quarter of your signal. 24 decibels is a factor of nearly 300, about 99.7% of the transmitted power gone. But look at the rest of the same bench. 7 other phones tested the same way lost 14.4 decibels on average. Every one of them had the problem. One of them just wore its antenna where a hand closes, which leaves your phone a problem to solve on every call. It can't stop you holding it. So it measures you instead. A small coupler sits between the transmitter and the antenna, comparing the power heading out with the power coming back. A rising reflection means the antenna has drifted out of tune, and the phone doesn't need to know why. It switches components in its matching network until the reflection falls again. Apple's own patent names the two states out loud: a free space tuning setting and a grip tuning setting. The same document describes switching circuitry so that only one of 2 antennas, upper or lower, transmits at any moment. So go back to the call and your hand moving. You didn't fix that call. You uncovered one antenna out of several on a device that had already caught the mismatch and started retuning itself around your fingers. You have never held a phone that simply has a signal. You've been holding one end of a tuned circuit, one that spends every call measuring how much of itself is inside your hand.
Everything you just figured out rests on something deeper, and that's the next video, so start there. Would you rather understand your computer than just use it? Then subscribe, and I'll see you next time, further down the stack.